So when you get the 810 flashlight, we're trying to take off this top part and unscrew it. And sometimes they're really stuck and you can't do it with your own grip. I have a vice grip. So this is going to be the challenge with people, is finding a way to get this off, especially if you don't have something to like really do this. And then I have to put a lot of pressure on this and then take a monkey wrench like this and really and it, I just loosen almost like what they might have glue on that. I go like this for a little bit, it scratches the outside, and then when I pull it out, I'm usually able to take that off. Yep, see. There's 2 layers of glass. Make sure the bottom layer, it's a magnifying lens, and it's going to have rough edges right here on the top. So when we glue this on here like this, we're going to remove this rubber ring. Yep, this right here. We're going to remove that, and now we're going to first glue with the epoxy this magnifying lens, and it is got the rough edge. If you go like this, you can feel the ridges. That's upwards on the top, and we're going to glue it like that. So not everyone's going to have a vice grip. What I recommend is getting what's called a strap wrench. You can go it on Amazon. This one right here is $12.71 right now. It's just kind of a rubber band with this aluminum handle to really get some leverage, and that rubber will stick to around the flashlight. And then, as you can see in this video here, this guy's using it just as an example on a Yeti. You'd put it around there, and then you can get some good leverage to get that off. I think this device will work well. You don't need a wrench. You won't risk damaging the flashlight, and the thing costs about $12, so it's worth doing. I'm also going to list this flashlight on my website just in case people have troubles or just don't want to hassle with upgrading these, so they can just order them straight from me. And I'm not going to profit with it at all, but I just want to offer it. All right, so now we're going to epoxy the 810 flashlight, and we're also going to do the 660 flashlight again for this new video. The O-rings are off, these things from there. We're going to use the lens that has the magnifier and the rough edges. The rough edges go on the top facing upwards so you can feel them. And then we're going to just bead epoxy. I'm using Gorilla Epoxy. There's other brands of epoxy that we're going to put on here, and then we're going to glue it there. The epoxy works really well if you use super glue. It fogs the lens up from the chemicals off gassing. So let's get started by mixing this up. The most important thing is getting this epoxy to mix really well. So start with the stick and just start really well, because that's going to make the biggest difference on how well it dries and how well it works, because you got to mix the two chemicals together. Once it's mixed, we got about 3 to 5 minutes before it starts to harden.
The epoxy comes with a nice tool right here in the middle. You can just break that out. That'll be a nice tool for spreading the epoxy and stirring it.
We're going to bead around the outside. Don't worry about it overflowing because we're going to put a good amount on the outside of it. And you have some wiggle room because the LED's in the middle. So if it leaks into the middle, that's okay too. Don't even worry about it. Now make sure you got the rough edges up and drop that on there. Get it as center as possible. Perfect. Gonna let that one dry. All right, I'm gonna put the glass layer on now. And honestly, we could use the flashlights with just this. I've dropped one of mine and cracked this, and I've been using it as just with this layer of glass. But I like to put this on. If nothing else, if it breaks, take it off, and you keep using the flashlight. But let's go ahead and put this on. Definitely recommend doing it. So like that. We're gonna make some more epoxy. Then we're gonna put it around the outside.
So my recommendation after doing this is to take the glass, the second piece of glass, put it on there, and it wants to move around pretty easily. Just put little dabs of epoxy around the outside and let it dry for 10 minutes before coming back and putting a good amount around the outside. Then it'll allow you to turn the flashlight and not worry about that glass sliding around. So it takes about 10 minutes to dry enough that it'll hold it in place to come back and put a larger layer. Right now I'm coming back like 2 days later, and I'm going to apply this now, a good amount around the outside, and then let that dry for another 24 hours before putting a rubber ring around the outside, and then using vinyl or electrical tape to cover this glue, just for looks and for added protection to the glass.
So now that I have the epoxy around the outside, just in little dabs to hold the glass on, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a good amount around the outside. Mix more epoxy. So it definitely helps being able to turn the glass.
sideways, or the flashlight sideways to do this. And that's why you put just little dabs to hold that glass piece in place. Let it dry, and then go around the outside and nail it down. All right, that'll be good. All right, that's gonna be perfect. Leave it at that. All right, to finish up the A10 flashlight, as you can see here, the epoxy is dry. The glass is on there really well. The only issue I've had with this is, this flashlight rolls, so it's easy to set it down and have it roll off a table or something, and then it, without that rim that we removed, it exposes it to cracking the glass, or at least breaking the epoxy and that glass coming off. At least we have 2 layers of glass, so I do have one flashlight that doesn't have the top layer, and it works just fine after a fall. But one thing I'm going to do to combat that is put this rubber ring on it, and then use this electrical vinyl tape. So all I do is, put this on here like this, and then it's a bumper if it falls. These are pretty cheap on Amazon, but I got a large pack with a bunch. So anyone in my protocol, if you send me a message with your address, I'll mail you one of these. It'll be cheap to send, just like a 25-cent stamp, in just a regular, envelope. I'll send you one of these rings to put on your 810 flashlight. And now we're just gonna tape it with the electrical tape. Just like this. And there you have it. Now it's got a bumper to help protect that glass. Obviously, if it lands like this, you can still crack that glass. So be careful with this. We did make it a little bit weaker by removing that ring, so there is a chance of breaking this glass. At least you have 2 layers of glass, so if one breaks, you peel it off and the flashlight still works. Otherwise, the bumper should significantly help preventing breaking that glass if it falls. I'm going to do the S2 flashlight while I got it here. Don't worry too much about bubbles, but the key is just getting the right amount to bubble over. And after about 3 minutes, it starts to congeal, and you don't want to mess with it after that because you'll ruin the clarity of it. But there you go. That's all you got to do. And then there'll be a slight amount that bubbles up. You can see that. Don't keep it level. Don't worry about any bubbles really. It won't affect it. And then keep it like that. And put it somewhere to dry. Don't touch it for 24 hours. Even though it's tempting to see if it's dry, just leave it. I'm going to set this over here. So the finished product will look like this. The epoxy kind of bubbles up, kind of like a water drop, and it'll make it so the flashlight gets good skin compression.